everyone, and welcome to my channel. Great to have you here. So as you can tell by the title of this video, today I'm going to be talking about just some helpful tips that will help you to travel with your little furry friend, whether it's on vacation or if you're just moving long distances. Hopefully you will find this video helpful. So if you are planning on taking your pet with you on vacation, I know that a lot of people tend to kind of judge you for that they're kind of say, why would you put your pet under that stress for no reason? But I mean, I'm not here to judge if that's what you want to do. It is your fur baby. It is your choice. I'm not here to judge. You obviously know what is best for your little guy or girl. However, I do just want to quickly mention in this video that if you don't want to put your pet through the stress of traveling while you're on vacation, there are always alternatives. I don't really recommend leaving them like in a kennel or anything like that. Just personally, from people that I've known, they haven't had the best experience with that, so I wouldn't condone it. If you've done that before in the past and you've had a good experience with it, then that's great. Continue to do that, and if you have a kennel that's really good, go ahead. But obviously, you know, leaving them at home in the comfort of their own home is ideal. If you have a friend or family member that is able to come in and check on them every now and again, and if they're a dog, let them out for a walk and whatnot, that is obviously the ideal choice. If you're not able to do that though, there are services out there that allow you to hire somebody that can come in. You choose how often you want them at your house, whether it's twice a day, once every couple days. It's up to you. And obviously the company vets them beforehand, and so you know that you're leaving them with somebody trustworthy. You have an initial setup and meet with them to make sure that, you know, obviously that person and your pet are going to get along, that there's no issues, that you are comfortable and trustworthy of that person with your little fur baby. So those are just options. Definitely do your research on that to see if that's something that might be a useful option for you. All right, so now let's get into the actual travel tips part of the video. So before you take off on your travels, you're going to want to take your pet to the vet first, just to make sure that they are healthy enough to travel. Also, you should be inquiring with them to see what they recommend in terms of stress relief for them. So I don't really recommend having them sedated by any means at all. I've only had to do that with my cat once, and that was the first time I flew with him. And to be quite honest, I don't even know if it really made that much of a difference. I mean, he was kind of a little bit restless at first, but then after a while calmed down. I don't think he actually got any sleep throughout that flight or anything like that, and it was under the vet's recommendation, and they were the ones that medicated him. I would never do that on my own. I have no idea how much to give them, so definitely talk to your vet to see if that's something that they recommend and have them do it. Don't give them any medications on your own. And always remember that when you are traveling, as long as you remain calm, they'll remain calm as well. So there's no need for any kind of additional medication, you know. So the one thing that I will recommend if you are a cat owner is what is called Feel Away, and I got it from my vet. It's not a medication whatsoever. You can buy it over the counter. So this is just something that's really good, that if your cat is just kind of acting up or if they're just very nervous, this one that I have here comes in spray form. You can also get a diffuser, and it just kind of smells throughout your entire house. I don't know if I can really smell it. I think it's just one of those things that maybe just cats kind of have, like, it's not a very strong scent to me, but to your cat, they'll definitely notice it. And it basically, I don't want to get too much into it right now in this video. If you do want to see another video where I specifically talk about cat care, definitely let me know. I've had cats for my entire life, and I also used to foster cats, so I'm very aware of things to make them feel comfortable in a new environment, and this is definitely something that helps. So I recommend if your cat is, you know, peeing all over the place, or they're just very nervous, going to the vet or traveling, that's something to definitely invest in. It's not that expensive. Anyways, moving on. So another reason why you want to take your pet to see the vet first is to make sure that their vaccines are up to date. This is especially important if you're traveling across the border, or if you're traveling by plane, it is usually required that you have an updated vaccine certificate. When you're packing their carrier that you're going to bring them in, make sure that it is filled with very familiar scents. So a blanket that they're used to sleeping on, some familiar toys and things like that. And I also do recommend carrying extra blankets with you because accidents do happen along the way, especially if they're feeling a little nervous. They will tend to pee on it, and you don't want that smell to be all over your car or wherever it is that you're traveling with. So keep extra ones on hand. All right, so the lighting's getting kind of weird. The sun is moving. I hope it's not too distracting for you. All right, so the next thing is obviously to make sure that they have an ID collar on them at all times, and make sure that they are microchipped with your current information. And also make sure that if you are taking them out of their carrier at every time, that they remain on a leash. And this part is obvious if you are a dog owner, but also is recommended if you have cats. If you have cats, I do recommend the full body harness as opposed to the one that just attaches to the neck, like their collar at their neck. They tend to not mind them as much. Another thing you want to do is check with the hotel that you're staying at, just to make sure that they do allow your pet in there. You don't want any complications upon arrival. So before booking, just double check. Usually a hotel will be okay with smaller cats or dogs, but they tend to have an issue when it is a bigger dog. So just verify quickly before you book that hotel. All right, so before you set off on your journey, wherever that may be, you're going to want to make sure that you're taking your little furry friend out for a walk to keep them active before you take off. And this will help them so that when they are traveling, they don't have a lot of pent-up energy with them, which will make them even more anxious. It will also hopefully just ensure that they just sleep throughout the whole trip. That is the ideal. So you're going to want to feed them about 5 to 6 hours before you take off to ensure that they don't get nauseous or feel any kind of motion sickness. Also, you're going to want to have them take them out for their business, just before you leave. And this is obviously a lot easier to control if you have a dog, if you have a cat. You kind of just have to hope that they go and just kind of check on their litter box just to kind of make sure that they did their business before you leave. However, if you can't really make them, you can't make a cat do anything. So if you're traveling specifically by car and, little Fido or Fluffy isn't used to being in a car, you're gonna wanna get them accustomed to that by taking them with you on short trips. If you gotta grab dinner at a drive-thru or whatnot, take them with you, and then that way you don't have to actually leave the car and leave them in there by themselves. Obvious but needs to be said, never ever ever leave your pet locked in a car, especially on a hot day or an extremely cold day. You never know what may happen. Even if you think that you're only going to be gone for just a second or so, you never know what might happen, so don't do it. Don't risk it. When I was researching for this video, it was recommended by many pet experts that you need to leave your pet in their carrier at all times when you're taking a road trip. I don't know how I feel about that personally. It seems a little bit unfair to have them just kind of locked in, especially if it's going to be a really long drive. What my experience in the past, and I had a cat that we took on road trips many times for several days. There would be 3-day long road trips. We would travel across the country when I was young, and we would take my cat with me, and obviously that was a long time for him to be kept locked up. So what I would do is initially, yes, definitely keep them in their carrier until they're really comfortable, and then just kind of leave the door open and to see how they feel about it. Chances are they're probably just going to want to stay in there because they're afraid. They don't know what's out there. They don't know what's happening. Once they get comfortable with leaving their carrier and kind of exploring a little bit, that's kind of something that's up to them. And with my cat, he was really good at traveling in cars, so he would just kind of find a warm, sunny spot on the seat and just kind of lie there, and he was fine for the rest of the trip. So if you are going to kind of let them roam free in your car, Again, that's something that's up to you. I can't recommend to or not, and only you know your pet and how they're going to react. So just a couple things to keep in mind. You're going to want to block off the space in between the back and the front seat. So you know the space underneath like the front seats, the driver's seats and the passenger seats. There's a little spot underneath there where if your pet is small enough, they can crawl under there and get up to, you know, the driver's sides, which could cause an accident. And also, if there is an accident and they're in the front seat and the airbags deploy, they could suffocate under that. So it's not really made for them to be up in the front seat. So definitely don't do that. Completely block it off by stuffing things under there so they're just not able to get under there. Also, you're going to want to be extra careful if you're braking, because if they're just kind of walking around on the back seat or whatnot, and if you brake suddenly, obviously they lose their balance and they could, you know, fly forward, which would not be good for them, and they could injure themselves. So definitely keep those things in mind. But if you want to just keep them in their carrier their whole time, I mean, that's fine too. As I said, many pet experts have recommended that. And then obviously, if you're getting in and out of your car, be very mindful of them and keep them on a leash so that they don't kind of run off. And also be sure to take very frequent breaks, especially if you have a dog, so they are able to go and do their business. All right, so moving on to traveling by airplane. Whenever I've traveled with my pet on a plane, I've always ensured that they were able to come with me in the cabin. And usually airlines will allow that for small dogs or cats, and it's usually at an extra fee. Obviously, you need all their proper documentation. Some airlines require a lot more, so do your research before booking what it is that is required. So I was lucky enough that a few years ago I was able to find this cat carrier at Target, which has been a lifesaver for traveling throughout airports. It's on wheels, so it's very easy. The cat just kind of stays in there, and I've had no issues with traveling with this specific carrier in the past. But again, each airline is different, so their requirements sometimes are very specific on the carrier that you can have. So before you run out and buy one like this, make sure that your airline that you're traveling with is okay with that. I haven't seen it at Target since, but if I find one that's similar online, I will link it below if you are interested. It's good for just any other kind of travel, like to the vet or anything like that, since it is on wheels. So since you are taking your little fur baby with you in cabin, you will have to go through security, so be mindful of that. And when you are going through security, I was asked to take my pet out of the carrier and just kind of hold him as I went through screening and all of that. So be aware of this. If your pet, if you know that they are kind of flighty or airplane joke, if you know that they're very nervous around large strange groups of people and they might kind of take off or anything like that, ask them to do a secondary security screening. So do make sure that you are giving yourself plenty of time before your departure to go through anything like that. So that's if they are flying in cabin with you. Now, if they have to go in cargo hold, like if you have a bigger dog or anything like that. Personally, I've never had to do this, and if I did, it would make me really nervous. But I have done some research on it, so if this is your scenario, here are just some things that I searched up that might be able to help you so you don't feel as nervous. So make sure that you're researching the airline beforehand, because all airlines are required to report any kind of animal related incidences. So if you find one and they have a very long list of reported incidences, maybe consider going with a different airline. Always try to find a direct flight and ensure that you are getting on the same flight as your pet, and then that way you can watch them go into the plane and get off of it. All right, so if your pet is brachycephalic, I'm pronouncing that wrong for sure. I will leave the name of it on the screen here so you know what I'm talking about. Basically, it means that the way that they breathe and their airways are a bit different than other animals, and this applies to Pekingese dogs, bulldogs, and Persian cats, and possibly a few others. You would probably know if your pet has that issue with breathing. They are not able to go under cargo hold. Try to avoid travel during extreme weather conditions, so extremely hot summers or extremely cold winters or anything like that, and pick the right time of day for your flight depending on the season. Again, if they're in a cargo hold, you never know what might happen, and you just want to avoid any kind of issues. Make sure that they have their ID collar on them at all times with your home address and phone number, as well as the address and phone number of where you are going to be staying, and also ensure that it is on the outside of the carrier. Don't leave any loose collars or have their nails long in the event that it gets caught on something, so ensure that the nails are trimmed and the collars are very not tight, but not loose where it can get caught in something, you know what I mean? So that's everything that I have for this video. Hopefully you found it entertaining and, you know, helpful for your situation. I am taking my Luna on a very big road trip, and she is not as well of a traveler as my last cat was, so I am very nervous about this trip, and doing this research for this video has helped me quite a bit and knowing what to do to help calm her down. So I will be vlogging that trip, so make sure that you are subscribed, because at the very least it's going to be entertaining. So that's all I have for you guys today, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!